review it. So, let's review the episode. Episode 91 or episode season 4. Season 5, I mean. Season 5, episode 4, I mean, yeah. My Academia, obviously.僕のヒーローアカデミア. Great episode. I think the animation, first of all, you said it. I think the animation really stood out this episode. I mean, obviously we know that Bones can do good animation. We've seen the early seasons, right? And it wasn't the best they've done. It wasn't like, the tournament final thing or like, the boss kind of fights or whatever. So it wasn't the best thing, but I think it was, the Sakaga moments were clearly a lot higher than at least the previous episodes by far. Like this scene here, it just kind of looks better, right? It kind of enters and we kind of see the smoke coming. Yeah, I felt a lot. Yeah, this episode here I felt a lot more real than the previous 3 episodes, which is kind of like, which did come off as quite slow pace, kind of like okay, episode 1 is clearly a filler episode, and even 2 and 3 was kind of like getting a tournament or nothing really doesn't really start yet. This here feels like. Now we're really getting into this season, right? Last episode was kind of the build up, and now we're actually fighting, and we see the new powers and so on. But also from like an animation standpoint, just visually much more appealing. I think this theme was great, and kind of Froppy enter there, and kind of that graphic, kind of that like dump, kind of that kind of graphical extra text and so on. They can get into that, right? That is looked way better. When you kind of, the editing in this thing kind of get on the side and so forth, right? So it's a lot better just scenes and like screen captures or whatever you want to call it, right? But anyway, so the graphics way better this episode. I think it was way better. But I think unfortunately it's because, of course I said earlier, but episode 1 per season is also like a filler for season 3, I think, or maybe even 2. At least 4 and 3 also had a filler episode 1, right? So you do kind of feel like, okay, they kind of, drop something out there to kind of fill out the time, try to kind of get in there. But anyway, let's talk about the best boy then. Shinso finally gets a win, right? I like that he's not just overly confident, right? He's the mind control guy, but he's like, I'm not that used to fighting, and maybe this could go wrong, and he has some self-doubt and so on. That makes sense. It's realistic. He's a little afraid of fighting. He's a little... he's a little too afraid of actually getting into the action, or blames himself for the issues and so on. So that's good. That's great. Yeah, he's somewhat too afraid of doing stuff to some extent, and he doesn't really trust his own abilities a little bit, right? And doesn't have much experience, I guess, fighting with other heroes, right? I don't mean with teammates. With teammates. He's been trained by a sensei, of course, in secret. Kind of mentored him, but that was still only, I guess, those 2, right? Hasn't really been, fighting with like Froppy or whatever, right? To come using teammates in that sense. But I think that's also yet another reason why he is probably gonna join either A or B, right? Probably A then, so we can see him growing as a person, right? He kind of learning how to fight with other people and so on, and team ups and friendship and that stuff. As I said last week, I really do think it's gonna join Class A because. I'm biased, of course, but I think it's going to join Class A, just from like a narrative author standpoint, right? Because if the author is going to spend this much time on this character, like we're introducing him, giving him his own episode, like Shinso you can do it, giving him like his whole little mini arc here, right? It feels it would be really weird, I would say, really weird if the author isn't like, I'm not going to use him again. You know what I mean? Like he gets like 3-4 episodes and then it's like out again. That would be really strange. He might go on Class B, but I think because he has so much screen time, and I think he has one of the best stories, right? He's probably going to go on Class A, right? So he actually get much more screen time. I would think so. But regardless, he has to go on either A or B, right? It's from like a narrative standpoint, or else it feels kind of pointless spending like. He has like 2 episodes now to himself, right? And a previous backstory episode too is like his 3rd or 4th episode only on him now. So he has a lot of screen time for a character that would not then join, right? So from that standpoint, it would be really strange otherwise. And I said last week too, I was iterating that point, but I think it makes sense that by adding a new character to the class, you get a new dynamic, right? So there's like a reason that part. I can't remember the name of the thing now, but you talk about the 4 phases of like a school class or like a workplace or whatever, like a cultural hierarchy. So first you have the you have one phase, which kind of everyone just meets. You have phase 2 when you kind of everyone fights. You have phase 3 when you kind of get much better. Phase 4 is like you kind of have the hierarchy set, right? Very loosely explained there, but it's like 4 phases of team building and whatever. And but however though, phase 4 might not everyone hate story. No one is friends, but basically the 4th phase is like hierarchy set, right? At like a high school would be like this is the queen bee cheerleader, you know, the jock quarterback, they're on the top of the school and the nerds on the bottom. That is a hierarchy, right? It doesn't have to be like a good hierarchy. And that's phase 4 then. But every time you introduce a new person to this social construct, that those 4 phases will happen again, right? Or if you remove a character or a person, right, at workplace or whatever. So at a typical high school, right, if you have a new like transfer student, then that person is gonna have to, you know, find their place in the hierarchy. You know, Bakugo is very angry, you know what I mean? Everyone kind of likes Deku, you know, yeah. So then Shinso is gonna have to find his place, right? So they have to like iterate over these 4 phases of, you know, personality and characterization and so on. Of course, it's an anime, so you probably skip over most of that stuff. But you know what I mean? By adding a new student, basically, you will have to kind of go over, okay, how will he be? Is he the popular new student, right? Is he the not popular in the class? Will he have a love interest? Will, you know, Deku be his best new friend, right? You know what I mean? Like, Sue is super friendly to him in this episode. She's a very nice person, but, you know, I ship them, and now, you know what I mean? Will it be like, oh, because Sue is all like, oh, you're doing great, you know, she's all like super nice and friendly to him. Yeah, she's all like, you know, oh, I'm very impressed by you. You're very, yeah, like, you know, let's ship them right now. But you know what I mean, right? By adding a new character to the class, which actually never been done before, I think it's interesting because it's episode 91 now. We're at episode 91. We've had this class since what episode, like 5? Is that episode 5 or 6? When do we have episode 4 is when they do the exam. Episode 5, I think, yeah. They never changed the class since episode 5. No one has left the class. I mean, Bakugo was kind of, no one's actually left. Someone was kidnapped, no one actually left the class. And no one has entered the class, right? Unless I'm completely missing out. No, but I mean, people have been like, you know, removed temporarily from the class because of issues, right? But nothing has like actually left or re-entered. So yeah, throwing in like a new character here can, you know, create some new dynamics, and it had to be like a romantic storyline. But for example, right, maybe Sue falls in love with him for argument's sake, because it's like they have the same team, it's super easy to, you know, how will that then, you know, alter the other dynamics? Will Urakara be like, oh, Sue is the boyfriend, so I date Deku now, and so on, right? I'm not saying it's gonna happen. I'm just saying that, you know, these are all storylines that could happen, right? That we haven't really seen before in the anime, just because they have never changed classmates. If anything, it's kind of strange that they've never done it in so many episodes. The more thinking was like, holy shit, man! My Academia has been going for 91 episode, and in 87 episode, they never changed the classmates at all. That's like super very very stable class, man, for being heroes. I mean, I read a lot of Marvel. I read all the Marvel comics for 30-40 years, right? And I have hundreds of Marvel comics. And like in Marvel, when they have the different classes, right? Like for example, Avengers Initiative. After the 50 state program they had in Avengers Chapel, it's about like new people with new powers being trained by like I guess Ant-Man, but thanks to Iron Man, I guess. But whatever, they change classmates all the time. they get like they're fighting bad guys and they die, right? Or someone gets in, or they get a new classmate, and, you know, someone gets new powers, and, you know, yeah, or someone loses their powers, right? But it's very Marvel too. Someone like, you know, gets like, you know, dequirked, right? They lose their powers permanently and they have to replace them, or maybe they return with like a mecha suit or something. Like straight up, yeah, with Beak is the one. Beak and Angela, they lose their powers, then they return with like exoskeleton suits 3 years later, and so on. That's very, very Marvel. If someone loses their power in Marvel, they always either get, you know, better powers by some Terriga mist or something, right? Or they get like a mecha suit so they can still fight, right? Very, very Marvel. But anyway, the point is that, yeah, in Marvel they probably would have changed half the class by now, right? You know, Sue probably would be a real frog now, and Deku probably would have, you know, 10 more powers, and some other half the class would be dead probably. You know, or it would be like a clone or something. Yeah, like Urakara would have like a clone. It would be like 3 Urakas, like old Urakara, young Urakara, and like evil clone Urakara. That would be Marvel, and they will all be in the same class, like, you know, it would be dynamic. Yeah, Marvel, it doesn't too much. But here in Academia, that's why I also want him to join the class, right? Is because I want to see a little bit changes to the dynamics, right? I will say one thing though, which I feel a little bit like seeing the preview and so on, and I heard this thing. I mean, I haven't, I had me on it, right? I do feel a little bit though, to be honest here, that after I have Shinso, right, my favorite boy character, Miriko was my favorite character, but my wife. But after Shinso, I have to say I love this anime, one of my favorite animes, right? But I have to say a little bit like, okay, next week is like, bird guy gets new powers. It's a little bit like, I don't care that much anymore. Maybe it's gonna be an amazing, school tournament or kind of thing here, perhaps. But I have to say a little bit. I feel like Shinso is clearly, I think, the golden goose, right, of this kind of this arc, getting like a retro character, what do you call it? Reintroduced character, he's back again, right? He wanna be a hero and so on. That has more of a backstory, it's more of a journey, it's more of a character development. Like he's like unsure, but Sue supports him, right? He gets a little more confidence. That's more of a character growth, I feel, as well, right? More of a storyline generally, and it's also the thought about might change the dynamics, and so on. But otherwise, yeah, I don't know. Like I feel these other storylines now aren't much of storylines. Right? It's like, oh, he's gonna have a new power. Okay, I mean, I'm excited to see them fight, right? But I had to say here before, honestly, that I hope they're gonna kind of quickly go over the other students, show the new powers, then get to the next arc with the actual, bad guys and Hawks and so on, right? And Endower, that actual storyline, and Darby and the actual storyline, because yeah, Shinji has an actual character arc, right? But all the other students, they're basically just training, getting stronger, right? Like what is his arc here? Like he has a new power. I mean, it might be a really good episode, but I'm just saying, like a little bit. I don't feel that the anime has really built up the other characters, so it does feel like right now we're getting into tournament arc, but it isn't really a tournament arc. It's like a group tournament arc, but not really. And I think the problem is probably that there's no stakes on this thing. You know what I mean? This arc is like Shinsu is the porter part, he gets reintroduced, he gets this journey, the heroic journey, right? But the other characters has no stake on this because they're not fighting in front of a crowd. But last time they were fighting against Class B in this actual tournament arc, you know what I mean? An actual tournament arc, right? And I would love a group tournament arc like in Black Clover. Why not? I love that Black Clover. They have a lot of group fights. That's great. You don't have to be a single tournament arc. That's awesome. But I do that. But that is clearly a thing here now that there is no stakes on these actual fights. It doesn't really matter who wins or loses. There is no crowd, right? There is no like, oh, if I win this thing, these scouts are gonna, hire me, or I'm gonna get a better occupation. I'm gonna, my hero ranks gonna go up, right? Because otherwise, when they do have tournament arc, to some degree, right, it's similar to like a sport, sport game, right? If you wanna be a star football player or whatever, right? You always have scouts there that scouting you to get to the next college, right? So you get like a free college or so on, right? To get you into, the best quarterback. He gets paid and goes to Harvard or that kind of stuff, right? That stake is there, right? And of course, then in the classic tournament arc, yeah, all the heroes wants to show off, right? Or Hatsu's gonna show her stuff and so on, right? Because they can get more money and so on. But here it's like, it's like 4 or 5 cents in watching them, and they're just kind of training. So yeah, so I think that's the problem now. I have to say, right? I'm very negative now, but I feel that's a little issue here. Even with Shinso's little issue, because like there's no stakes, right? Shinso gets his tournament, he gets his like revenge for the tournament arc. That's happened now halfway through. I guess later he's gonna fight Deku, probably, right? So that's like probably the end of this arc, and that's gonna be interesting to see. But everything in between that is kind of like just the kids fighting with new powers. But there's no one actually mad. But it doesn't matter if they win or lose, right? It only actually matters when Shinso fights. That's the thing, right? Because Shinso is the guy that's trying to get into class A or B, probably A, right? So he's the only guy that actually matters if he wins or loses, right? So now Shinsu won, which is great. So he probably gets to class A, right? Because he won. But it doesn't matter if Bird wins, right? It doesn't matter if Bakugo wins. It doesn't actually relate to the storyline, right? Because they're all already in the class. So I think that's a little weird thing with this storyline that I think is pretty clear now after Shinsu already won here, right? Yeah, like the other fights doesn't really matter. They don't. They're gonna show, of course, new powers. That's gonna be relevant later when they fight the bad guys. But I mean, there's no stakes. They don't have to win, right? Shinsu was the only character that his life actually changed by winning. So I do think that's kind of strange. So, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're gonna add something new. But I think it's fair to say that, yeah, Shinso had his heroic journey, right? His like character development journey. But the older characters has no journey here. They only have like, here's my new power. You see, it might be a really cool fight, but I'm just like, wait, why am I watching this fight for? A little bit like that. A little bit like that. So I'm just gonna say that. No, I mean, obviously I'm very bad with the like Shinso, but I'm just like, I was realizing, you know, sometimes I do reviews, and I gave my, a reflector or stuff, right? I gave my, my shower tier just kind of pops up, right? I was like, no other character matters in this tournament work. They don't, because it's like, if they lose or win, they have the same job, they have the same occupation, they have the same salary, right? Doesn't actually matter that much. Only Shinso matters. Not because I like Shinso, but he's the only guy that actually can advance in his life by winning. So that's a little strange. But anyway, yeah, negative point. No, but I mean, I want to see the next fight. So I'm just saying, like, wait, arguably, maybe Shinso's fight should have been later, because his fight is the high stake fight. But I guess it's gonna be 2 fights. So I think the last fight and the first fight is gonna be Alpha and Omega. It's gonna be. I would definitely bet that the last fight in this class battle here is going to be Shinso again. He's probably going to be the first and the last fight. That's probably what's going to happen. That makes sense to me from like a new structure of the narration, right? But anyway, guys, that's My Academia. Sorry again for the weird start there. Yeah, 3D 60 view setting, very, very strange. Now then, today it's a lot of animes, so I don't know what to do really. So many animes, and some of them are really good, and some are like, but my favorite though, I said immediately here, right? I said it last week too. My favorite of all the new anime today is definitely Nagatoro-san. That was amazing, you know. Don't bully me, Nagatoro. That was super fun. That was easily my favorite of last week. Otherwise, I like Vivi, but that's where I watched 3 episodes. Otherwise, maybe Tokyo Revengers, because I like the link with the Yankees. It's kind of erased with Yankees or something. But yeah, Slime was kind of funny and so on. It was pretty funny. Then I'll see you guys with a lot more anime today. Episode 1 Saturday has a lot of animes, and of course ends with One Piece, of course, in the end. I think the last part of Roger's flashback, I think, today. Then we get the Orochi flashback, which is like, yay, that's gonna be fun. I'll see you guys in